Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping right into the architecture of a mystery that honestly affects almost all of us. You know, back in the post-World War II era, the middle-class dream felt like a rock-solid guarantee, didn't it? Just work hard, buy a house, retire comfortably. But today, well, that dream has basically morphed into a modern-day financial treadmill. Millions of families are working their absolute hardest, day in and day out, for their entire lives. Yet despite all that sweat and sacrifice, true financial freedom just remains completely out of reach. So we're going to decode the hidden financial traps that quietly keep the middle class stuck, while the wealthy just continue building immense wealth. Think of this as a cinematic story of money, mindset, and mechanics.
I really want you to let this question sink in for a second. Is the system completely broken, or are we just following the wrong financial rules? It's a pretty provocative thought, right? I mean, we are conditioned from a very young age to follow a specific path. Go to school, get a good job, save a little, and retire happy. But here's the thing. That playbook was written for an economy that existed 40 years ago. It worked brilliantly for our grandparents during the industrial age, but the economic landscape has fundamentally shifted since then. As we go through this explainer today, I want you to actively question those financial habits you've probably held on to for your entire life.
It's wild when you think about it. On one hand, we have the expectation, 40 years of the daily grind, giving your absolute best hours to an employer, building toward this relaxing finish line. But then, on the other hand, we have the harsh reality, struggling financially after retirement. Why on earth do families work for 4 decades only to find themselves pinching pennies in what are supposed to be their golden years? Consider this fact. A shocking percentage of modern retirees have less than $50,000 saved for a retirement that could easily last 2 decades. To put that into perspective, that is barely anything to survive on, let alone thrive. This isn't just a scary statistic. This is the lived experience of millions of people. It's deeply frustrating, and frankly, it just doesn't seem fair at all.
So, let's dive into part 1, decoding the middle-class trap and why hard work alone just isn't enough anymore. Moving right along to part 2, the illusion of salary and the harsh paycheck-to-paycheck reality.
Listen, we've got to bust a deeply ingrained myth right out of the gate here. A higher salary doesn't always make you wealthy. For sure, we are taught to chase the promotion, right? To negotiate for that extra 10 or 20% bump in pay, genuinely believing that a larger paycheck will just magically lead to true wealth. But earning more money does not automatically equate to having more wealth. Actually, scratch that. It's not even a metric of wealth if you spend it all. Take a household pulling in, say, $150,000 a year. By all traditional metrics, they should be wealthy. Yet, a massive percentage of these six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck totally broke because their living costs have artificially inflated to match their new income. Think of it like this. If your bucket has a massive hole in it, pouring more water in faster isn't going to help you fill it.
Which brings us to part 3, debt and lifestyle creep. This is literally the invisible thief of your wealth. It's a ridiculously seductive cycle, and almost everyone falls into it at some point. Step 1, you finally get that big promotion and a bigger salary. Woohoo! You celebrate. But then, naturally comes step 2, the bigger house. 'Cause, you feel you've earned the extra space. Then step 3 is a shiny new car in the driveway to match the status of that new house. And before you know it, step 4, the whole shebang is just an entirely more expensive lifestyle. Fancier dinners, better vacations, premium brands. Yes, your income increased substantially, but your actual net wealth stubbornly stays right at 0. You're making way more, but you're spending it exactly as fast as it comes in.
So this specific trap actually has a name, and it is absolutely crucial to understand. It's called lifestyle inflation. It's the phenomenon where an increase in your income leads to a parallel increase in your personal living expenses. Suddenly, after just a 5% raise, you convince yourself that a $7 artisanal coffee every single morning isn't a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. It's an incredibly seductive illusion of success. You feel richer because you're surrounded by all these nicer things. But on paper, you are completely financially stagnant. You are essentially just upgrading the velvet ropes of your own financial prison.
Just think about the anatomy of modern debt for a minute. A massive slice of your hard-earned income goes straight to home loans. Another huge chunk gets swallowed by car loans. Then those credit card minimum payments take their bite. And what are you left with? Just a tiny, almost invisible sliver for actual wealth building. Historically speaking, consumer credit card debt has recently hit all-time highs. It's crazy.
Debt quietly eats up your paycheck before the money even hits your bank account. You're out there working 40 hours a week just to pay the banks, not to build your own future.
Okay, part 4. How the wealthy think and how they completely flip the financial script. There is a fundamental difference in how these two mindsets operate. Middle-class thinking prioritizes immediate gratification, like buying luxuries first. You get a bonus, you go buy a designer watch. But wealthy thinking, it's all about playing the long game and buying assets first. The wealthy intentionally delay that immediate gratification. So instead of buying a depreciating luxury vehicle, they take their capital and purchase things that will generate more capital, like a cash-flowing rental property or dividend-paying stocks. Only then, down the line, do they use the profits from those assets to buy the luxuries. It is a total inversion of the standard script we're all taught.
To really pull this off, you've got to ground yourself in an essential yet stunningly simple truth. The balance of wealth comes down to one thing: assets versus liabilities. An asset is simply something that puts money into your pocket, whether you're actively working or not. A liability, that's something that takes money out of your pocket. Now, here's a slightly uncomfortable realization for a lot of folks: your primary house. If it's constantly taking money out of your pocket every single month in the form of a mortgage, property taxes, and maintenance without generating a dime of income, it's currently acting as a liability, not an asset. The wealthy spend their entire lives accumulating true assets. The middle class, well, they spend their lives accumulating liabilities that they mistakenly think are assets.
So while the middle class often ends up building a bit of a financial house of cards, relying on just one single salary and holding high consumer debt, the wealthy construct a fortress. They focus heavily on multiple income streams and consistent investing. The wealthy don't just work for their money, they actively build systems of passive income. If one stream completely dries up, no big deal, they have 3 more flowing. If we look back at historical realities like the 2008 recession or the 2020 lockdowns, it was the people with multiple streams of income who weathered the storm and even thrived. Meanwhile, those dependent on a single paycheck faced absolute catastrophe. The wealthy build a literal moat around their financial security.
And finally, part 5, your blueprint to freedom and exactly how to escape the rat race. All right, this is where we take all that theory and turn it into exact, actionable steps. These are your 5 unbreakable laws of wealth building. Law number 1 is budgeting. And hey, this isn't about restricting yourself. It's simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Law 2 is building an emergency fund. Because let's face it, a flat tire shouldn't put you into high-interest credit card debt. Law 3 is investing every single month. You've got to treat it like a non-negotiable bill that you owe to your future self. Law 4 is actively building and acquiring those income-producing assets we just talked about. And Law 5 is continuous financial education. The economy evolves, right? So you have to keep upgrading your financial operating system to stay ahead of the curve.
Now, why is investing every single month such a big deal? 2 words: compound interest. It is quite literally the alchemy of wealth. It's earning interest on your original money and then earning more interest on that new interest. It creates this massive exponential growth curve over time. In the very beginning, it kind of looks like nothing is happening at all. But over decades, compound interest is the invisible engine that turns modest monthly savings into massive, generational wealth. Consider this surprising fact: Warren Buffett accumulated over 90% of his immense wealth after his 65th birthday. No way, right? But that wasn't magic. That was just the sheer mathematical power of compounding over decades. Time is absolutely the most valuable asset you have in this equation.
And this brings up a really important, highly empathetic realization. The middle class isn't struggling because they lack a work ethic. They are not poor because they don't work hard. They are poor because nobody teaches them how money actually works. Our modern education system was built way back during the Industrial Revolution. Its primary goal was just to create compliant, punctual workers for factories, not wealthy, independent innovators. So your past financial struggles? They aren't a moral failing. They're simply the result of playing a complex game without ever being taught the actual rules.
It all comes back to this one idea. Once you understand the rules, you stop working only for money, and you start making money work for you. That is the ultimate goal here. That's the shift from being an employee of your own life to becoming the architect of your own affluence. You have the blueprint now. The trap is decoded, the illusions are shattered, and the path to real, lasting financial freedom is sitting right in front of you. So when your very next paycheck arrives, will you buy another brick for your financial prison, or will you buy your freedom?